Today we're talking about this crazy notion that people have been talking about that cash is trash. So I want to come on today and talk specifically about why cash is not trash, that cash is king, and how we can go into our businesses right now and find more cash. We all need more cash, and we need it now, right now. So I have some tips. I have a full page of notes here on ways that I want to help our clients, our vendors, and our dealers find cash, utilize cash, get our hands on it, trust it, and then be able to survive and eventually deploy the cash to thrive. So the first thing that everybody needs to do right now is you need to go to your bookkeeper, your controller, your CPA, and you need to pull your updated balance sheet. Statements consist of two parts. The first is the balance sheet. The second is the income statement. Everyone needs to pull your balance sheet right now. And you need to look at it in two fashions. You need to look at your assets and you need to compare them to your liabilities to determine what your cash position is. The technical term of this analysis is called a quick ratio. And quick is when you're figuring out what your current assets are over your current liabilities. If you do that exercise, if you take your current assets, everything you own that could be liquidated in 12 months, and you overlay it against your current liabilities, everything that you owe out over the next 12 months, that's your quick ratio, and it will help you determine what your cash position is. You must figure out what your cash position is off of your balance sheet, your current assets over your current liabilities. Everything you own that you could liquidate in 12 months versus everything you owe over the next 12 months. That ratio has to be done now. The math has to be done. And the result of that begins to tell you what your cash position is. But part of current assets is your accounts receivable. So you must figure out what your accounts receivable position is. You have to ask a few questions on your accounts receivable. This is work that you performed, invoices that you've issued, and you're waiting to collect this money. You have to ask yourself, are they real? How much of your accounts receivable, which is part of your current assets, are receivables? How many of those clients are actually going to pay you? And then you have to get on the phone with all of those clients and you have to strike deals. Look, I believe cash is more valuable than ever right now for the next 30, 60, 90 days as we're moving through this coronavirus mess and the real economic fallout that it's caused. We've got to get our hands on more cash. So look at your accounts receivables after you've pulled your balance sheet, you've done your quick ratio, your current assets over your current liabilities, and begin to strike deals. Can you pay me today? Can you pay me by credit card? Can you send me a wire transfer? Can I come and pick up a check? If I discounted your bill by 10%, would you be able to pay me today? How can you collect on your accounts receivable so you can turn the receivable, the paper invoice, into real cash in the bank? I want you to also think about the opportunity to factor your invoices. Could you engage with a factoring company right now to go ahead and start to collect your receivables faster from a factoring company? The third thing I want you to do in Cash is King, get as much cash as you possibly can right now, is I want you to apply for the government stimulus programs. Now, we did the live video a week or so ago talking about the programs, the PPP and the EIDL. We've all seen the news that the PPP today has run out of money. I don't believe that's the case. I believe the government will issue more money to small businesses. I think they'll put in another $300 billion that will take it to close to 750 billion. And I believe more money will be coming. So make sure you apply for the government stimulus programs, the PPP and the EIDL program. The fourth thing that you can do right now to try to get your hands on cash and survive the economic downturn that we are in, not that's coming, we're in it right now, is you got to think about downsizing your fleet. Can you sell older pieces of equipment? And I know you like that old piece because, old Yeller's in the yard and everybody knows how to drive old Yeller and she starts every time you turn the key. But you may have 50 grand or 80 grand or 100 grand sitting in old Yeller in the parking lot. and it might be time to unload her. So think about selling some of your equipment. Think about right-sizing the fleet. Sell one or two pieces of paid-for equipment to get yourself some cash. And then analyze with your vendor or your dealer what your trade-in opportunities are. Look, you may have 10 trucks in the fleet right now, and you may be able to trade 5 of those trucks in and right-size the fleet. So I want you to think about downsizing the fleet, liquidating some paid-for equipment, or even old Yeller in the parking lot, and turn that stuff into cash. I have 2 more items on my notes for today on why cash is not trash and why cash is king. You need to cut expenses to the bone right now. You've got to cut staff and overhead. I want you to look at the company credit card and cut all spending out on the company credit card. You might need it for fuel, probably, and maybe office supplies and a few other things, but all those little incidentals that you were doing, the office supply bill way too high, analyze your company credit card and cut your expenses to the bone. Go to your vendors and see if you can renegotiate some terms. Look, I just mentioned on your accounts receivable that maybe you have to offer a discount to go ahead and get your money paid on it. The same thing might apply on the other side, which is what if you went to your vendors and asked them for a discount if you were able to pay the bill now, and you might pick up 10 or 20 or 30% discount if you did that. Yes, it hurts your cash position now, but you're making money every time you pay with a discount. And the last thing on cutting expenses is you've got to reconcile your bank statements, and you've got to reconcile them now. I guarantee you have expenses on your bank statement that in the good times you just didn't spend a lot of time thinking about or looking into or analyzing. You need to reconcile your bank statements now. What are the recurring charges that are happening on that every month that you don't even worry about? The $50 here, the $100 here, the $200 here, that adds up, and it might find yourself a couple $1,000 every single month. So reconcile the bank statements. I want to give you a last piece of advice on this one. You can survive by overcorrecting and cutting deep on your expenses, but you can die by undercorrecting. In other words, if you overcorrect by right-sizing the fleet, by cutting your expenses to the bone, by adjusting your staff, you might live to fight another day. Conversely, if you don't, you could die. It could put your business out. You could go out of business by undercorrecting, much greater than going out of business by overcorrecting. Overcorrecting is hard. It's not fun. It's uncomfortable. It causes pain to other people, but you might save your business and you might be able to hire those people back. It helps to ensure your survivability through the next 30, 60, 90 days. Because I hate to mention it to everybody again, but Corona is going to be less impactful than everyone thought. We are going to have a lot of businesses that fall into hard times, and we're starting to all feel it and see it now. So how do we fix it? We have the guts and the courage to overcorrect in cutting our expenses to conserve and bring in cash now, to prevent ourselves from undercorrecting and potentially even putting us out of business down the road. But the key topic for today is cash is not trash, cash is king. And we know this. You think like I think, right? Conserve cash, be frugal, live to fight another day. And you live to fight another day by conserving your cash, by finding new cash, by going out and getting it, by monitoring it, and then having the courage to make the potential cuts necessary, even though they are hard and they feel as though they might be an overcorrection, in order to prevent undercorrecting. Because you can live when you overcorrect, but you might die in the business world if you undercorrect.